Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. It's Shane Lavner right here. Well, let me get centered. Whoops. And I think there's no better way to celebrate Jesus' birth than to count down my 10 favorite churches that I visited during my semester abroad in Europe last year. When I think of traveling in Europe, it's almost synonymous with seeing churches. You know, like I would visit at least 1 to 2 every city I went to. I actually never went to a church until St. Paul's Cathedral in London, which is one hell of a way to start. And I was very fresh-faced the whole time, so every church I went to I was super excited to see, but you know, we gotta make some cuts. These are my 10 favorite. I'll put some honorable mentions in the description below. I'll also add that Doheny Street Synagogue in Budapest would have made the list if it was a church, but of course it's a synagogue, as well as all those ancient Greek temples that obviously are not churches because they predate Christianity. Anyway, let's get on to the list at number 10, and I am starting with St. Bavo's Cathedral in Ghent, Belgium. Now, this is one that I actually appreciate probably more from the outside than the inside. I took an elevator up the top of the bell tower that's right opposite the church, and I had this amazing view. This church is so tall. Not a ton of floor space when you step inside, but the details are really beautiful, and those high vaulted ceilings are just stunning to look at with some really great stained glass, but it just doesn't have enough of these distinct qualities to get it higher up on the list. And in terms of distinct qualities, number 9 is arguably the most iconic church in Europe, ? Westminster Abbey. And this one would have been a lot higher on my list, I'm sure, if I actually stepped foot inside. So yeah, this one is just from the exterior. It's still my number 9 because we went, unfortunately, right after it closed, but I spent a good amount of time just walking around that whole area. It's kind of technically a complex of churches, but I'm really talking about the main one. It's such a beautiful building that, you know, I've been seeing in pictures and online and drawings for my whole life, and seeing it in real life was just stunning. I couldn't get enough of it. The detail, the scale, and just the sheer beauty of it. Yeah, it lives up to the hype. Now numbers 8 and 7, we're going to Cluj-Napoca, Romania. A city I only spent a single day in, did not even sleep overnight, but I saw some beautiful churches. And the first we're going to start with, one of the most unique ones. This is Dormition of the Theotokos Cathedral. Sorry about that. It's a little bit of a mouthful. I don't know at all what it means, but it was the only Romanian or like Eastern Orthodox church I went to in Europe, so already it kind of had this like advantage of being, you know, very unique. And I don't know if it was scaffolding or if it was actually part of the church, but it was so interesting on the inside. You can see in this pictures and video. The colors were beautiful, but the exterior, the way it's presented in the city with the statues in front of it, it's just so beautiful. And again, very different because this is my only time going fully into Eastern Europe during my whole trip. And it very much felt like just, you know, emblematic of that region. And number 7, the other one from Cluj-Napoca, is the Franciscan Temple. And this is one of the most interesting churches because this is true of all the churches I visited. I visited 3 total in Cluj-Napoca. This is not a super touristy city. So when I would visit like a church, it wasn't people like, oh my gosh, like Westminster Abbey or like, you know, some of the big ones in like Paris or London. It was, you know, people that are local there who are praying and stuff. So I felt really awkward filming. That's why I only have this really small video. It's not a very large building, and it's not even that impressive from the outside. Like, it looks like it could be like an old town hall maybe. But you step inside, and the detail and the colors are just gorgeous. It kind of feels like a fairy tale, honestly. And just the very quiet people, just like very solemnly praying there. There's only a few other people there, so we didn't want to overstep, the 3 of us who visited. But it was something else. Number 6, gosh, I should have looked up the pronunciation, but this is the Sacré-Cœur. I butchered it. It's in Paris. It's iconic. This basilica is just, I mean, most of it is the exterior. It's up on the hill in the Montmartre, I don't know how to pronounce it either, neighborhood of Paris, which is one of my favorite spots in the city. And going there at sunset is just, you have to. The way the sun hits the building during magic hour is just to die for. You take all the steps up to the top, you get this gorgeous view of most of the city of Paris. I unfortunately didn't get to go to the very top for the panorama, but that being said, just being there, experiencing the view, experiencing the grandeur of the basilica, just at this very top of the hill, and the style, the architecture, it's very distinct. It's an icon of the city, and it's this high up on the list, even though the interior is really nothing to write home about. Now at number 5, I have probably the most unique one on this list. This is in Amsterdam, and it's actually a museum. It's not a working church at all anymore, but this is Our Lord in the Attic, church museum. And this is basically, the reason I have it so high, one is because it's so unique, but two, it's a great history lesson because basically you get to walk through what a 1600s Dutch, Amsterdam home is like. And you learn about how, it was Catholic controlled, the Protestants here, or maybe I have it the other way around, Protestants, Catholics, sound off in the comments. I think it's the other way around. One of the two weren't allowed to practice, so they had these basically attic churches where they would get people from the community to come to these people's homes and they'd pray. So you get this really unique church that's still preserved. Plus, you get to walk through a home that's 400 years old. It's an amazing history lesson. It's really fascinating, and when else do you get to see a church built in people's homes avoiding persecution in Europe? That's pretty unique. So yeah. Highly recommend. One of my favorite museums I saw in Amsterdam. Now we're going to number 4 and 3. We are in Budapest, where I stayed for the majority of my time in Europe. That's where I lived. And number 4 is Matthäus Church, which is a beautiful church on the Buda side of the city, up on the hill. Very old, and it's very touristy area. And I'd seen it from the exterior for months, but I didn't actually visit until my penultimate day in the city. I'm so glad I did. I hadn't eaten all day. I was going off of 1 cup of mulled wine, and I was a little loose. You can see this iconic video my friends took of me ranking my fingers, which, as you can tell, I like to rank things, including my fingers. And this was such a gorgeous place. The patterns, the coloring was very intricate. There was a great treasury on the top level where you just got to see some really, really fine, pieces of historical artwork. It was the last church I visited in Europe, and oh boy, was it a good one to go out on. We're going to keep it in the same city for number 3, going to the Pest side of the city, the most iconic church in Budapest, St. Stephen's Basilica. This is the one with the 2 spires that you can see it anywhere across the river, most places in Pest as well. It is fantastically beautiful from the outside. I ran by it very many times and only stepped foot once. Actually, this was my second day in Budapest. This is right after only being in the London churches. And I was like, whoa, this color scheme, it's very maroon, it's very dark. This is my introduction to Central Eastern European churches. And this one takes the cake. It's so ornate. It's very famous and for good reason. Very touristy. Definitely get there early, but boy, is it beautiful. The organ is beautiful. Just everything about it was such a fantastic place. And at the very end of my trip, during the holiday markets, they have a really great one right by there, and they do projections on the side of the basilica, which is really cool, as you can see in the video here. So, time for the top 2, and these ones are so nice. I'm losing my voice, but that's okay, because we are talking about European churches. Number 2, this was the first one I've ever been to in my life. I already mentioned it, St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and what a way to start. I step inside, I gawk up, and I'm like, is this what churches are like? No, this is the upper crust churches, Shane, but it was so beautiful. Again, the scale is insane. It goes on forever. The nave is huge, and they got the big circular above the altar. I don't know what they call it, but the dome is so pretty. You can see way up. It's 300 feet tall or something. Got so much intricate details. They were having a service going on, so I got to experience that for my first ever visit. They got the crypt underneath, tons of other just intricate artworks scattered throughout, and then take the stairs up, and I got one of the best views I got in all my time in London, just right in the center of the city. The way it's set up, you see it when you're walking on, I believe it's the Millennium Bridge right over the Thames, and it looks beautiful. Everything about it is perfect. So there's only one church I like more, and it is an iconic one. I believe it's the most visited monument in all of Germany. This is Cologne Cathedral. Man, the first time I see it on the train there, I'm like, how? They built this almost 1,000 years ago. Obviously, it's been renovated several times. Most recently, I think in the late 1800s, when they finally completed it, because it's been under construction for 900 years or something crazy. But oh my god, the scale. And the first time I'm walking towards it from like my hotel, I round a corner and I see it and I'm like, I'm looking up. So many tourists are just around it. Like the whole city's tourism basically feels like it's based around this beautiful monstrosity of a cathedral. Hundreds and hundreds of feet tall. I mean, I take the steps to the top. It's not even that great of a view in terms of what you're seeing because Cologne isn't the most interesting city, but the sheer height of it is so amazing. But the reason it's so high is because, one, the architecture and the scale is just unparalleled from any other church I visited in Europe and most other churches in the world in general. But two, once you step inside, the way the light hits the stained glass is gorgeous. The architecture, the nave, the size of everything, the scale, the proportions are perfect. 3, underground, there's like this really impressive treasury, which I definitely recommend. It was only a couple dollars extra to check out. And 4, most importantly probably, the intricacy. Somehow with all that size and scale, they pack in so much in terms of the altar, the religious artwork. There's so many things to explore. I was shocked. I think I spent probably between the treasury, hiking up to the top, and the church itself, maybe 3 hours at the Cologne Cathedral, which is more than double any other church I visited. Yeah, those are my 10 favorite churches I saw in Europe. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I hope this inspired you to go to church for Christmas. I don't know. I hope that you enjoyed this. This was fun to make. Expect more videos coming soon. I did some cool vlogs in Washington, D.C. for the holidays, so that'll be really fun. But yeah, stay cool. Have a great rest of your 2023. And happy early new year. This is Shane Lavner. If you liked this video, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe for more coming soon. Maybe leave a comment. What are your favorite churches in Europe? I'll see ya. Bye-bye.